Hello, I'm Doug and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And today on Mild Melty Cheeses number 12, we are looking at Tomme de Savoie from Herve Mons, a maker in France of cheese, which usually means we get it at Whole Foods. So I've got this small sample here. It's got kind of a crusty looking brown rind, and it's kind of yellow, very yellow in the middle. And it's been out of the fridge for quite a while, so we're going to dig right into this thing and start tasting. So I think I covered a Tomme in episode number 10, a domestic one from Georgia. But this is originating more in the area where Tommes kind of originated, just farmers making cheese wherever their cows or sheep or goats were, in the hills and mountains and valleys. Okay, it's a little waxy on the outside, but the rind isn't made from wax. It's just whatever mold, yeast, things grow in that area. So I think they're mostly ambient organisms. So I'm not getting a lot of smell until I get up close to it. This one has a little bit of ammonia, but I expect that to dissipate. It's been in a wrapper for a while. Let's see if there's a date or something. Packed on 5/25. That's about 3 weeks ago. So it usually says it's getting close to the end of its useful life, but if it persists, you probably wouldn't want to eat it. So I'm going to let it air out and talk about the section in the book. The Book of Cheese by Liz Thorpe is my guide for this, and we're in our third series of cheeses from her book, because she has this gateway system that helps you understand. So right now we're in the Havarti Gateway, and here is the entry for Tomme de Savoie. And that just means it's one of these rustic country style cheeses from probably a very careful creamery or cheesemaker in France. And they tend to be earthy, grassy, or hay, or farmy, somewhat in their characteristics. So I'm going to let this air out a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's dissipating. And I'm going to cut into the center. Well, let me figure out how I want to cut pieces, because the rind isn't generally edible. You could, but it's not where the enjoyment comes from. So I'm just going to cut a good sized piece and cut off the top and bottom. So the flavor is probably strongest near the rind, because those organisms are contributing something to the flavors. So I'll get those little scraps out of the way. And I left some close stuff close to the rind there, but I will sample the other end of it. Yeah, this is pretty close to room temperature. There's not much of a chill on it. So I get older cheese notes. It's kind of cheesy. Let's see. Oh, soft. Moist. Pasty. I thought this was going to have a lot of evidence of age, but I can tell it's younger from the texture. Ooh. Kind of a spicy finish. Interesting. Okay, more. Wow, that's pretty complicated. I don't even know where to start. There's all notes of stinky feet or old socks or farm animals, farmyard, old leather, old wood type things. And then, oh man, from the mid palate on, it's a little spicy. I'm not sure what to call it. It's not quite peppery. It's not a white pepper or black pepper. It's a long finish. Definitely 3 or 4 kinds of earthiness all over the place. It's kind of vague and nebulous, but you know, they're earthy. I think we've gone a little bit past the place where you get any dairy notes. There's a buttery texture maybe, or a fatty mouthfeel. But the dairy notes have been left behind in the aging cave, rack, room, whatever. And that peppery finish. It's not, I keep saying peppery, but it's a sharpness, a tang, a needle prick on your tongue, and you just wonder, what is that? It's not peppery, but it's like a peppery finish. So, wow, this is farther from my experience. So I better put it on a cracker and taste it like that before I eat it all up plain. I'm going to grab a crostini and see how that gets along. Wow, the extra saltiness of the crostini cracker really amps up some of the flavors. And the crunchy texture is a nice contrast. Got my wine bottle too close there. But I think the crostini flavors are a little too strong as a mate to the cheese. I'm moving to flatbread. So let's try this. Okay, yeah, the flatbread definitely dials it back, and the flavors of the cheese really pop out. Yeah, farmy, earthy, soil earth, green mossy earth, grassy fields kind of earth. Wow, it's just hard to describe. Those words aren't in my vocabulary. And then that little pop of tang, pseudo pepper, pepper sauce, I don't know what. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to slice some more. I'm going to put this on this other kind of cracker. So this one is cherries and almonds. That didn't break very well. And a big gamish of a little tiny bread they slice. Let's see how this goes. Mmm. I think that was pretty well. There's tiny bits of fruit in the cracker, and they really shine and bounce off and pop with that cheese. So I'm going to eat a little bit that's very close to the rind and has some of the brown stuff from it. So encroached into the cheese. Let's just get a beat on that flavor and what that's like. It has strongly one or two of the earthy notes. So the mold settles on the outside, and I think this is a washed rind kind of cheese. Washed curd kind of cheese. It's got some holes, and things can go in fairly deeply into some of those cracks and crevices and caves that are formed when you smash a bunch of curds together. And you can see some of the holes. You can see how it's uneven, and if you're close to the rind, you can get some encroachment of that mold or yeast. Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to cut more to do any pairings. So the rind is a little harder. It's hard to get started with the knife. But once you get going, the cheese is quite a bit softer inside. So I don't think the rind would hurt you, but I'm not sure it's got any cheese flavors. Just old stuff. So, I don't know if I need 3 or 4 pieces really. Let's do. Okay. Well, let's do the apple thing. It's a good chunk of apple and a good chunk of cheese. So it's just apple and cheese together. There's a freshness and a brightness from the apple. A little bit of malic acid and the fresh, unsalted moisture of the apple. It's really fruity, and it's like eating an apple in a barnyard, right next to some of the trees. It was a good combination, but not outstanding. So now let's see. I'm going to go back to flatbread, a little piece of cheese, and maybe a dried cherry or two to see how that kind of fruitiness gets along with the strong, complex flavors of this cheese here. So the cherries pop right away. They are so different than the cheese that's quite a strong contrast. And then the cracker adds a little bit of a texture contrast. So you don't notice the cheese and cherries both being so squishy. And then, well, might want to do the wine a couple of times. It's a port wine from Portugal, and I keep eating this stuff. Never have enough pieces, and now I don't have room to work on. I should have brought a bigger stage. Okay, so this is late bottle vintage port. So it's a fortified wine from Portugal, which is all grapes, and it's very grapey, and it's not as sweet as you might think, but it is fortified up to 20% ABV. So it's very grapey, intensely fruity, and then not as sweet as a lot of people think it is. Yeah, it just smells like a good strong wine, red wine, a grapey wine. A little bit of a sweetness to it, and now the cheese. Earthy, earthy, earthy. Wow. These things don't clash at all. They're a good combination, the way the cheese and the funky, the cherries, dried cherries and the funky cheese was a good combination. It's still in the arena flavor-wise. So that works okay. And one more thing I wanted to try was cashews with some of the cheese. Cashews are mild, interesting flavor. And I go all over the place with nuts in this kind of pairing, tasting combinations. So a few cashews and a small slab of the cheese. I got way more cashew flavor right away because I bit into some first. And it has a great combination. It's kind of a nuttiness maybe in the cheese, and it connects with that. And then the cashews are a little salted, and that connects with the saltiness in the cheese. And wow, there's kind of a buttery note in the cashews, and it kind of replaces the missing buttery notes or dairy notes I'm looking for in this cheese. So that worked out really well considering how mild cashews can be. So I went through this pretty quick, and this cheese ought to be available at Whole Foods. So I got a very small label, and when I looked it up online to get better pictures, it was just another picture of this very small label. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. Let's see, it's like $20 a pound, right? $25 a pound. So you'll want to buy smallish amounts. And it's really good. So just savor and enjoy it. And this is really best at room temperatures. Those flavors and aromas really pop out when it's not chilled. So if you like the videos that you've been seeing here on this channel, please like this video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave comments and questions, and share it with friends. And subscribe to the channel and click on that bell to get notified when we release the new videos, sometimes on Mondays. So I've got quite a stockpile of cheeses piled up in my fridge that I need to get to. So we're just marching on through these mild, melty cheeses, and didn't melt this one, but maybe some other day. So let me find a nice piece with a big chunk of moldy crud outside on it, and tell you to come back for more. Cheers. Mmm.